Good day, friends. Today I'll share cybersecurity topics rarely discussed. A lot of accounts have been hacked in France in recent days. First, France Travail has had 1.6 million client files stolen, and this isn't the first breach. I think we're at 5 or 6 in the last 2 years, so it's starting to become a tradition. Every few weeks, hackers show up, grab everything and leave. And then we also have the others from the French Federation of Shooting, so the Sports Shooting Federation, where their files were stolen with addresses, types of weapons, first and last names, all of that, the whole thing. That means today a burglar can look at a map and say, well, I want this kind of weapon, and I don't want to drive more than 50 kilometers. For example, within a 50-kilometer radius of my place of residence, tell me which places are available. And in this way, he can surgically target gun owners who today we track them, and we can understand there are weapons under their responsibility that could be stolen from them, because their federation, which obviously keeps data, is not up to the task of handling that data. Today, more and more companies, federations, and administrations are accumulating data. But then they say, yes, we're sorry, it's gone, it's out there. So let me tell you the problem we're facing today. It's that as much as if you write to me saying our passwords were stolen and need changing, for example, okay, I can change the password. But with companies and government agencies that even ask for biometric data, what if their data gets stolen? What am I supposed to do? Should I get plastic surgery to change my face, get surgery to change my fingerprints? You know what I mean? There's an increasing demand and massive storage of data, but in the end, we realize that these entities aren't able to keep it safe. So I'd like to tell you something today. Why are these hacks happening more and more? And why will they become even more frequent in the future? It's not going to go back, it's only going to speed up. And I'll tell you why. I worked in cybersecurity. As you know, I spent a few years in cybersecurity actually. That was at the end of my career in tech. That's where the disgust, if you will, reached such a level that I decided to leave the field. I think it was cybersecurity that really got to me. But even then, I was already pretty worn out from the rest of my career. But after spending some time in cybersecurity, that's when I decided to leave. So let me tell you, there's an asymmetry between attack and defense. I'll give you a few points about this asymmetry and I'll let you think about it. First, when you work in hacking, if you look at how hackers operate, they spend 100% of their time hacking. They don't do anything else. They're there, they have their computers, and then they work alone, they work in groups, all that, and they're looking to hack systems. When I worked in cybersecurity, I can tell you that there were times for an entire month when I was doing things that were very unrelated, that had nothing to do with my job. Here are some examples. You arrive in the morning and they say, yes, by week's end, we have an ethics committee and we have a meeting. Can you help us make a PowerPoint for a presentation? And then ideally, we should also make a PDF for them, which we'll give them as well so they can take it with them. You know that everyone is going to fall asleep during the ethics PowerPoint presentation, and you know that no one is going to read the PDF, but there are boxes to check in the company, so you spend the whole week on it. And the next week, you come in on Monday morning and Human Resources has sent out several mandatory trainings. There's one on corruption, one on gender equality, and one on I don't even know what. And then you're going to spend your day clicking, just trying to get through it and leave it behind you. So in the corporate world, just like in the world of administration, there are constant disruptions, which means that in the end, the guys attacking you are very focused on their mission. You, on the other hand, are completely scattered. Another thing, when you look at hackers' computers, they have several machines. Typically, the machines are running with their cases open, right? I remember when I was a student, I think I had 3 or 4 machines. Okay, their cases were open because they were all overclocked, and then to change the hardware, etc. So there you go. Those machines couldn't be closed and stayed open all the time. I had bought a fan, an old metal fan, as big as the ones at the Galta of the CSP in Lausanne. For those who know, the one who hasn't read. And actually, there was the propeller spinning without the cage, just to let you know. To cool the systems, you needed a lot of airflow, so you had to ventilate. Okay, very dangerous. You should never do that. But, well, it was a different time. There were things that were allowed back then. They're not allowed anymore. One thing When you're in the hacking world, you have 3 computers in your office, plus a dozen servers and dozens of open remote desktop protocol sessions and everything, open all over the place. You do whatever you want for the attack. Just double click to install any tool instantly. Whether you need to install, compile, or write it, you can bring and deploy your own tools. If you look at the defenders, they give you a ThinkPad laptop. Okay, well, when you open it, you realize you're not an admin on it. Everything is locked down. You see, you realize that, for example, if you need to install Wireshark or Transmission Control Protocol dump, because they're just security tools, you need to talk to your management about it, who will then talk to the department in charge of hardware, who has to talk to the one in charge of compliance, who will ask you for several emails, several forms to fill out, and then after 3 weeks, they'll tell you no. So once again, I'm showing you an asymmetry between people who are focused on their mission, who have all the tools they need, and people who are scattered and have their hands and feet tied. You see, they can't just defend themselves like that. What we also notice is mental rigidity. When you're on the attack, you attack by any means necessary. There are no rules. I'm not playing tennis with you. There are no rules where I have to hit the ball a certain way and you a certain way. No. There are absolutely no rules. The only rule is to reach the goal by any means necessary. Legitimate or not legitimate, there's not even a notion of legitimacy. As long as you can reach the goal, you reach the goal. Simple. When you're on the other side, when you're in defense, you're blocked by rules, you're blocked by conformity, you're blocked. For example, I especially notice young people entering cybersecurity, they train them with tables like the Mitra attack framework and others. So you have Mitra, you have a table, columns, then the type of attack, and you have numbers. Yes, well, look, here you have a brute force. So it's, I don't know, T0110 or something like that. I say something, you write it down, and that's your playbook. If you have it, just click here, machine. All right, okay, that's all nice, except that maybe it's good at the beginning when you're being trained, maybe it's good as a reminder, but the problem is that after that, it creates a rigid system. It means that the attackers move forward with a free mind, completely detached from any system, while the defenders, on the other hand, think in boxes. So they're stuck in their boxes with their reports, their playbooks, their stuff, and they get caught. Okay, another thing. Let's move on to something else. The distribution of tasks when you join a company. Today, these are systems that were created, maybe the first computer was installed 40 years ago. Today, you have thousands of them, servers, cables, rerouting. You have a data center here and one locally. You have cloud services, you have applications, virtualization, you have leased lines, you have multi-protocol label switching, you have stuff, phone lines, and more, all of which can still be found in many systems today. Eventually, you end up with a system no one understands, with an unbelievable level of complexity. The company, everyone focuses on their own area. Someone does only virtualization, another just Linux. At least I do Linux, I don't care about the rest, Windows, all that, that's not my problem. The one who manages Amazon Cloud will do Amazon Cloud management, he doesn't care. As a result, it creates a fragmented vision for each participant. Why? Because the company is just too complicated. But anyway, we can't stay here forever. I work at the company for 18 months to 2 years, then move on. So I don't need to memorize everything they do. The hacker, however, faces no such functional restrictions. So when he starts exploring, because every attack begins with exploring the perimeter, you start by detecting some IPs, doing some light scans, looking at open ports, trying to do fingerprinting, trying to identify what's running, what's listening. That's just the basics. Some even go as far as moving around, making phone calls or other things, but that's a whole other level. So as I was saying, when you look at it, the hacker can end up knowing the company's tech system better than the company itself. Right? Because he can spend a lot of time working on it, and he can also buy a file. I've seen files being sold with the whole setup somewhere on the dark web. You have their IP addresses, their passwords, the open ports, everything. You have the whole system already laid out for you. Then you can go even further. But I guarantee you that the company itself doesn't have this kind of document that's so up to date and so detailed, you see. So there's that problem as well. Another thing in the world of hackers, people are recognized. The world of hackers is a meritocratic world. People are recognized for the big hits they pull off. This guy, he's the one who took down that company. He's the one who broke into that site. He's the one who managed to do that. Okay, that's how they're recognized. In a company, how are they recognized? In a company, it's through nepotism, friendship with management, personal WhatsApp chats at 11 at night, drinks together, all that. Well, that's how it works. We have a meritocratic system that, from a Darwinian view, produces the strongest, who will be the most prominent, who will rise the most, who will be the most respected, who will be trusted the most, who will be given more and more credit. They'll be given access to closed forums. They'll be given access to really cool things and all that. On the defender's side, well, that's it. You spend all day filling out PowerPoints, filling out forms, and then you get demoralized in front of your computer, right? And to put the final nail in the coffin, to finish, when you look at the state side, that means if we look at the level of cybersecurity, private companies offer huge six-figure salaries. In France, I've seen salaries exceed 200,000 euros. You see, for senior experts, so here we have this level of salary, so it attracts very senior people. But in government, that's impossible due to a strict salary scale. They're nice to you, they give you meal vouchers, you can buy candy with them, you see. So obviously, they're not going to attract exceptional talent. They might attract people who are looking for stability or who want to become civil servants and all that, but they're not going to attract the same level of kamim that you find in the private sector. So you see, I don't really see a solution to that. I'm just giving you a simple example. I saw that, even though I don't know the exact modus operandi, I saw that at France Travail, they managed to steal 1.6 million user files because an agent's account was compromised. An agent's account managed to access 1.6 million client files without anyone being alarmed. There's no throttling, no rate limiting, no automatic log monitoring, and no volume monitoring. There's nothing strange, nothing that raises any red flags. If we take all the agents who do their work throughout the day, we make histograms. One accessed 6 files, another 12, another 10, another 9, and one accessed 1.6 million. That doesn't shock anyone, does it? In reality, this graph doesn't exist. There are no logs, there's no log analysis, there's no system that monitors and says there's an anomaly here. I guarantee you in the private sector, it doesn't work like that. In the private sector, if typically the users or clients take 20 or 30 files a day, and if there's one who takes 100 at once, that's going to trigger something. It's going to trigger a restriction, a timer, an email, something somewhere. It's not possible. The fact that with an agent account, we manage to take so many means the system is completely open. It's not at the security level of 2025. It's not possible. 10 years ago, this kind of attack wasn't possible. I'm talking about serious systems. 10 years ago, it wasn't possible. 15 years ago, it wasn't possible. So when you see this kind of attack happening in 2025, you think, these guys are still living in 1999. It's not possible. What's more, I'll give you a real threat that exists today. For the France Travail case, it appears someone stole an agent's account. Let me explain a key development on the dark web today. There are groups of criminals, cyber criminals, who rent accounts of legitimate employees. Do you know what they say to the employee? You give us your account, you give us your password, your login. You leave us for an hour. We'll send you crypto, I don't know, we'll send you 4,000 euros. We'll send it to you in crypto. All right, no one will know. You leave us for an hour. After an hour, you say that your password was stolen. For example, you say that your laptop was stolen or that your work phone was stolen. Just say that. After an hour, just give us 1 hour. So that's why today we have what we call zero trust perimeters, which means perimeters where we don't just distrust what's coming from outside, but we also create boundaries and restrictions, even for those who are inside, because you're not safe from someone who will. I worked in a company where there was a guy, he brought in a hard drive and he copied all the company's client files. He got caught later, but he plugs in and copies everything. You see, he took the whole database before leaving, and more people are doing that, by the way, you know. So yeah, I just wanted to tell you that I'm pretty shocked by what's happening. But the state is by nature incapable, the state is incompetent, it's just there to use legitimate violence, so it lives off violence. It doesn't compete or exist in a free market, so it imposes things. There's no private or state-run France travail. You can choose, but really you can't. And unfortunately, it's a disaster because we see chronic incompetence. Today, and in the age of artificial intelligence, this is going to get worse. I'll tell you why. Because artificial intelligence lowers the barrier to accessing hacking tools. Because you have a lot of what we call scripts, which means you have a lot of people who will, because in reality, the danger of an attack doesn't necessarily come from its theoretical existence. Sometimes you'll notice this happens and companies love discussing it. A proof of concept, someone in a lab managed to do it, demonstrated that by doing this, and this, and under certain conditions. Sometimes they list 12 conditions. He managed to hack an account on Windows 2025. All right, okay. When you look at how he did it and what conditions are required, you see that it's completely theoretical. His attack is just theoretical, but some companies experience this and hold meetings about it. The reality is that this attack has no value as long as there are no tools to deploy it easily. Because when there are tools that are released, published tools, it lowers the barrier. It reduces the access level, technical skill, time, and expertise needed for this attack. You might have many people, including 15-year-olds, who often don't know what they're doing. They download the tool, enter an IP range, click to scan, see 12 IPs, and are told which is vulnerable. They click the IP, send a packet, and the target system either crashes or grants access. He doesn't even need to know the exact details of the vulnerability. It's already coded for him. And with artificial intelligence, it becomes easier and easier to code these kinds of tools and develop these kinds of tools. So it makes things a lot easier. That's why in the future, I don't see a clear improvement. That's just how it is. Well, that's how it is. What can you do? It's not going well. We can't change the world. But I think that if the state at least started to respect things a little bit, that means, for example, requiring less data, keeping it for a shorter time, maybe storing it in different silos, maybe trying to change the way they work. I'll give you one last example before we go. You know that the government very often buys security solutions that are outdated, I assure you, outdated, paid for with millions of taxpayer dollars, money taken by force, and it's because the money is taken by force that it's distributed. It's squandered like that because it has no value, because they can take as much money as they want by force, and they can burn through it however they want. Why am I telling you this? When the government wants to buy, it looks for firewalls or security solutions right away. It doesn't matter which. It will issue specifications and companies will respond to them. After that, it can take a year, 18 months, questions, answers, analyzing all that. Afterward, a company, or sometimes several for different specification segments, is chosen. After that, you must deliver, but first work with the relevant committees. Deployment of compliance, climate, social score, inclusivity. I'm serious, I'm not joking with you. And actually, sometimes it's 4 years later, knowing that they themselves, the state, to issue the specifications, to issue the call for tenders, they haven't even met. Once they clicked it, they issued it, right? They sometimes took 18 months internally just to issue the call for tenders, so it was already delayed from the start. It's already 18 months late when it comes out. Why are we giving them crappy, outdated, obsolete solutions? Because we can't change it afterwards. Because if we win the contract, we win the contract. By putting our latest version of our newest software, version 10, but by the time we get to delivery, we're already at version 14 or 15. And that this version is much more powerful. This version takes into account today's problems, today's attacks, not the attacks that existed before COVID. Well, we can't change because if we change, it could collapse, it could bring down everything, the whole offer, and we'll have to renegotiate from scratch. So what do? We sell it to them. It's like when you want to buy a new car, but you take so long to decide, and then you're so uptight about the way you work that in the end, today they give you a so-called new car, but in reality, it left the factory in 2017. There you go, here's your new car. All right, that's the problem and that's the state. So honestly, let me tell you something to finish. The more you deal with the state, the more you become an anarchist and want it out of your life. That's how it is, and there's no other way. Thanks for watching until the end, and be careful with your data. And I'll see you in the next video. See you very soon.